Okay, it's 3 p.m. and 3 minutes. I propose we start. Welcome again, good afternoon, and welcome to this webinar organized by UNCDF to answer questions on the recently launched expression of interest on loans and guarantees. It's my pleasure today to have colleagues here with us from our Ghana office, our regional office, as well as from our headquarters. My name is Arianna Gaspari and I work for UNCDF based in Ghana. And I am a technical specialist for the inclusive digital economies practice. It's a pleasure to have you all here. I see we are more than 70 people. So let me walk you through the agenda for today and briefly let my colleagues present themselves, and then we go to the main topic of today. We will go through a brief introduction of UNCDF and our work in Ghana, led by Enea Stocco today here with us. Then we will go through the UNCDF Investment Continuum, led by our colleague Tracy from Dakar. And then Andreas, our colleague based in New York, will walk us through this expression of interest, and then we will have space and time for Q&A. As you know, you have the option on Zoom to ask your questions during the webinar. So please feel free to use that section. If we are able to respond during the presentation, we'll be happy to do so. Otherwise, we'll have time at the end. Without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Enea for the introduction on UNCDF and what we are doing here in Ghana.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Arianna, for your introduction for this important event and opportunity related to our UNCDF expression of interest. So my name is Enea Stocco, and I'm the UNCDF country lead in Ghana. Next slide, please. Okay, that's great, thank you. So since its inception in 1966, UNCDF has a unique mandate within the UN system aimed at unlocking public and private finance, primarily for the least developed countries, but not only. This gives us the opportunity to issue grants, loans, and guarantee. Then, therefore, UNCDF work as an hybrid organization between a development agency and a development finance institution. In using its innovative and inclusive approaches, UNCDF has the capacity and as well as the flexibility to work and establish fruitful partnerships with both public and private sectors. Having said so, UNCDF is able to customize a blend of technical assistance and a diverse range of financial instruments calibrated to the needs of each country and context where we work. Thus, technical assistance and capital investments, as well as research and advocacies, they are all important instruments that we use and are available actually in order to deploy our important capital mandate. Next slide, please. Good. Under the agenda of leaving no one behind in the digital area, UNCDF strategy is to promote inclusive digital economies work in close synergy with the governments, with the private sector, and with the academia in order to empower key customer segments. To implement this strategy, UNCDF applies an inclusive market system development approach, which is composed of 4 main work streams that are visible in this slide. The first is related to enabling policy and regulations, work in close collaboration with government and at the policy level. The second work stream is inclusive innovation, and this is linked to our expression of interest. So working more with local entrepreneurs, financial service providers, and small and medium enterprises. The first work stream is more related to empower customers, and so using a customer centricity model. And the fourth work stream is linked to the open digital pay ecosystem. So supporting this ecosystem in order to develop physical payment infrastructure. The fourth work streams that I just mentioned constitute the strategy for achieving our goal of promoting inclusiveness in a digital economy. In order to achieve that, UNCDF deploys a set of key strategic instruments that comprise the practical tools that UNCDF uses to plan the necessary activities to ensure the development of an inclusive digital economy. Those key strategic instruments are reported in the slide, and are customer centricity, data and research, stakeholder engagement, expect technical advice and training, and de-risking financial instruments. Next slide, please. But what is UNCDF doing in Ghana? UNCDF is currently implementing a project called Boosting Green Employment and Enterprise Opportunity in Ghana, GREEN, funded by the European Union. And one of the most important components of this project is focused on improving access and usage of financial services. So we are leading the financial innovation area. Another important aspect and activity of UNCDF is related to currently we are expanding our digital agenda for the sector that I just mentioned, but we are even involved in the agriculture sector, and we are planning to expand our intervention in more sectors. We are even currently supporting the digital transformation agenda, working in close collaboration with the government of Ghana and our line ministries. And another important point that is part of our strategy is the ability and the capacity, considering our expertise, to create platforms, networks that are useful to engage our private and private partners and try to foster innovation and inclusion together with them. The last point is more related to UNCDF embedded in the UN system here in Ghana, as UNCDF is well recognized by the UN country team and by the UN resident coordinator in the new framework, UNCDF UN Sustainable Development Country Framework for 2022 and for 2026. I will stop here, and I will leave the floor to my colleague Tracy for the UNCDF investment part. Over to you, Tracy.
Thank you, Enea, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to all of you who have joined us on this call about our expression of interest for the capital deployment tools that we have available. Enea Anea mentioned our capital mandate, and I would like to reiterate some of that and drill down a little bit in more detail. He told you that the resolution that created UNCDF in 1966 established us as a hybrid organization so that we do development and TA, but technical assistance, but we also have an investment mandate to underwrite concessional loans and guarantees to private sector entities. And actually, I think it might be nice for us to have the next slide available while I explain some of this narrative. So we call this the investment continuum. And like other UN agencies, to meet our development objectives, when we're working with implementing partners and beneficiaries, we typically use grants. And you can see that in the box in yellow in the upper left there. So this is a really effective tool with startups and early stage microenterprises because grants are a great financing modality that make a lot of sense at that point. They are effectively seed capital. But as enterprises evolve, so do their financing needs. And our financing vehicles, the bridge facility and the build fund, are designed for that purpose to fill a gap in the development finance architecture for missing middle enterprises that no longer need grants, but may not be ready for pure commercial finance. And they are too small to get the attention of DFIs or other impact investors. So as you move forward along the x-axis there from left to right, you see early stage startup, early stage growth, expansion stage, and ultimately we're getting to mature stage where companies can seek and receive commercial finance. We're just pointing out that we think there are steps along the way where we can be helpful. And so, where we can be helpful is particularly in the box in the middle that has some purple shading around it, the bridge facility. That's when we do loans and guarantees that are concessional from our balance sheet. And moving as a next step, there's a semi-concessional, semi-commercial financial vehicle called the build fund that is for next stage companies. And ultimately, we see companies graduating straight to commercial financing. And so this, again, we call it the investment continuum, and UNCDF has worked with a lot of companies that have followed this pathway. They started by receiving grants from the UN or funding from other donors at the early stage. And then they might have tried to seek commercial financing from local banks, but were not able to get terms that were good for them. They were not able to provide collateral or security, or the repayment schedule may not have been well matched to their cash flows. And so we were able to provide a loan from our balance sheet, the bridge facility, generally with longer tenors than banks will offer, with less stringent collateral requirements, and sometimes with grace periods when it's appropriate. And when companies have successfully repaid loans from bridge facility, it provides a credit history and a demonstration effect that allows them to seek either quasi-commercial funding from the build fund, or they can move straight to funding from local banks. And we have seen that happen in many cases where after our concessional financing, they have been able to receive bigger amounts from local banks, for example, and other impact investors. So that's our goal. We're trying to crowd in commercial investors, not to crowd them out or undercut their pricing and distort the local market. And that's a good segue to the next slide, please. Thanks. And I just want to clarify that we work very hard not to distort markets with our concessional tools. And so we follow the OECD blended finance framework to make sure that we are minimizing distortion to the market, that we are trying to minimize concessionality, and we provide concessionality only to the extent that it allows enough de-risking to let transactions get done and ultimately crowd in other financiers in the future. And we also want to make sure there's additionality. For example, if an enterprise can get a loan from a bank without our support, we're not going to come in and provide support just to undercut the bank. It has to be financing that really has no chance of getting done without our support. So if any of these criteria sound like they're interesting to you, I hope you will respond to the expression of interest and submit your materials so that we can consider you for the use of these tools in this concessional financing to help your growth that is SDG positive. Thanks. I think it's over to you, Andreas.
Yes.
Andreas.
Thank you very much, Tracy. And now I see we have more than 120 attendees, and I'm sure they are all very curious about the expression of interest that we have launched. And I'll pass the floor to Andreas, who will walk us through the steps.
Thank you so much, Ariana. Hi, everyone. My name is Andreas, and I'm working with UNCDF's Inclusive Digital Economies team based in New York. So to add on what has already been said so far, UNCDF see these loans and guarantees as additional tools to support our market development agenda around inclusive digital economies. I will continue to speak more about the specifics around this expression of interest and the target enterprises. Next slide, please, Ariana. For this expression of interest, we are looking at a few categories as target enterprises. These fall broadly into three categories. First one, tech companies with tech-driven, digitally enabled business models across the target sectors, including finance and digital innovation, green economy and clean energy, agriculture value chain, and telecommunications and infrastructure. The second category is financial service providers, including financial institutions and non-bank financial institutions. And the third category is small and medium enterprises that not necessarily currently have a tech-driven, digitally enabled business model, but that can leverage use of technology to improve efficiency, organizational performance, and customer outreach across finance, green economy, and agriculture. All these investments are intended to contribute to market development and to building inclusive digital economies, particularly for vulnerable customer segments, including women, youth, micro, small, and medium enterprises, and migrants, and unlock further semi-commercial and commercial financing, as my colleague Tracy also said. Next slide, please. This expression of interest aims to collect information of prospects for UNCDF to issue loans and guarantees that contribute towards building inclusive digital economies in Ghana. The investment instruments offered are in two categories. The first one is the concessional lending and guarantees from UNCDF's bridge facility on UNCDF's own balance sheet in the range between 100,000 to $1 million available in local currency. And that is offered on concessional terms, including interest rate, tenor, and collateral requirements, and others. The second category is semi-commercial lending and equity investments through the Build Fund, which is a third-party managed off-balance sheet solution in the range between 250,000 to $2.5 million, also available in local currency. The suitable investment will depend on the financial needs and the risk-return profile of the organization, as well as funding availability. And the investments will come together with a technical assistance facility component, which is tailored according to pre-investment and post-investment technical assistance needs of the organization as required. For this expression of interest, priority will be given to pipeline eligible for the Build Fund, but prospects will be considered for bridge investment depending on possible funding available in the future as well. Next slide, please, Ariana. UNCDF will assess applicants' potential for investment according to set eligibility and organizational, financial, and impact shortlisting and evaluation criteria. Some of the eligibility criteria for this expression of interest include being a formally registered entity. It should offer a tech-driven, digitally enabled product or service, or be able to leverage such technology to improve efficiency, organizational performance, or customer outreach, be operating in one of the target sectors, and have minimum 1 year of audited financial statements or be in the process of obtaining audited financials. For the shortlisting and evaluation criteria, UNCDF will review the profile, experience, and team of the organization, the social impact, degree of innovation, and impact on the SDGs, among others. The full list of these is in the EOI document. And if you have any specific questions regarding this, please type them in the comment or Q&A box, and we will answer them as we go along and also in the Q&A part of the session. Next slide, please. Now for some information on the submission process. In order to submit an entry, you can fill out the form on the UNCDF e-investment apply platform. On this platform, once you have assigned a name to your application, you first fill out an eligibility screening form. If you pass this screening form, you'll be able to proceed with filling out the main application form. And the option to fill this out will appear on the application page if you pass the eligibility screening form requirements. The link to the application form is here on the screen and also in the EOI document and UNCDF website for this expression of interest. And the submission deadline is 10th of June this year. This call for expression of interest is an open-ended call with reoccurring quarterly deadlines until end of this year. And the deadline for the first quarterly assessment is the 10th of June. You can submit information under the call after this deadline, but your entry will be assessed on an ongoing basis. In order to make sure you're assessed in the first round, you should submit your entry by 10th of June. The next slide, please, Ariana. UNCDF will follow its investment management process while assessing applicants' potential for investment. This slide summarizes the investment management process that UNCDF uses. I won't go into further details on this. The process is also mentioned in the EOI document. If you have any specific questions regarding this, please type them also in the comment or Q&A box, and we will answer them as we go along or in the Q&A part of the session that is coming right up. Next slide, please. So the next steps would be to complete a submission using UNCDF's Apply platform. And as mentioned, the deadline for the first quarterly submission is the 10th of June. So now we will go into the open floor discussion and open Q&A. Ariana will now monitor the questions in the comment and Q&A section, and also checking if any hands are raised to ask in the open floor as well. Over to you, Ariana.
Thank you very much. I see we have already received a few interesting questions. The first one is on the technical assistance piece that Andreas, you mentioned. Is the cost of the TA part of the loan grant?
No, so usually the TA would be on additional technical assistance according to the needs of the organization. And if during the investment process, as you would go into the due diligence and more closer to an actual investment, a technical assistance assessment would be done. And if required, that would be on top of the loan. But Tracy, please correct me if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the company should ask for the technical assistance. It's less frequent that we will insist on technical assistance. It's often something that the company self-identifies during the due diligence process. And there is some cost sharing that is involved, but it is not part of the loan. We have a separate set of funds dedicated for that we can put some forward on your behalf, and then there's a small cost share. And I'm sorry that I don't have the details about the exact cost share, but there is some cost sharing that is required from the company to engage in the technical assistance, but the bulk of the expense is covered and does not does not fall on the company that requests the technical assistance. I hope that helps clarify.
Thank you, Tracy. I think the cost sharing is also to confirm the commitment of the organization to work with us. Next question is more on the definition we have used, I think. Could you please explain more what you mean by pipeline eligible for the build fund? Maybe we should go back to the definition of the build fund. Andreas or Tracy, you would like to take this one?
Tracy, do you want to take this one, or should I?
I think, why don't you guys go ahead and field them, and then if you need clarification, I can weigh in.
Yeah, so the specific pipeline that we are looking for is to build prospects that would be potential investments for the build fund. There is recently confirmed and made official the capital available in the build fund, and looking to deploy this capital in deals that would add value to build inclusive digital economies in Ghana. So that's why the focus is on collecting information on potential investments for the build fund in this expression of interest. But it's also possible that the organizations that apply would be potential bridge investments as well. However, there is currently not as much funding available as for build there. So those investment opportunities would only be considered once funding become available in the future. I hope that clarifies.
I'll just add in that I think as companies go through the apply and the pre-screening document, it'll become clearer. But specifically, you know, what we're saying is you have to be in one of the categories that's on the previous slide that talks about we're investing in companies that are financial inclusion and digital innovation, green economy and clean energy, agriculture value chain, food processing, et cetera. If you are healthcare, you may not be eligible because that's not a priority sector for bridge or build. Also on the slide, the next slide, it talks about that if you have an investment, if you have a need for a loan that is only $10,000, that is not going to be eligible for bridge or for build. And so, and then as you fill out the pre-assessment document or the template, the tool, when you're filling out your pre-assessment and then application, it's going to ask you for more details on your company, including some financials. And so there are also some criteria that will get screened in terms of how much revenue you produce and what your equity and net equity is. And that will indicate whether you're eligible for bridge or for build, respectively. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Tracy. I see another question. As a startup which is not yet operational, would our company be eligible to apply? This maybe I can answer here. As you see from this slide, the target SMEs are those that are able to have these investment needs with the ticket sizes that are displayed right now in the screen. Another question. How many years in operation or legal incorporation should the eligible SME have? For this specific information, I would like to invite all interested applicants to refer to the documents that we have published online. But just to quickly answer, we are requesting 1 year of audited financial statements or in the process to obtain them. Okay, another example, we are an agro processing company looking to use digital technology to support and mobilize local communities. Does that make us qualified to apply? Andreas, you want to? Yes. Yes, as business model, yes, but again, please refer to the eligibility criteria that we have summarized here and we have extensively explained in the expression of interest. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add to that.
Yeah, okay. I see another question. What is the stated loan tenor and collateral requirements?
So the different loans that we will be able to issue would be issued on different concessional terms, depending on the actual profile of the investment. But there could be different concessionalities in terms of interest rate or the length of the loan, and also collateral requirements, which means that's implied that there is no standing collateral requirements. So there could be loans issued without collateral securitizing it. Tracy, please add if you want to complement.
Yeah, so I think probably the application will ask you to input an amount and a tenor, and we will evaluate it based on the needs, the financing needs, and the projections, and the relevance. So we can be flexible to what makes sense. Like someone here in the chat says they need Capex, and can they apply? And so a Capex loan, we would obviously take, if you make a request for a Capex loan in 3 years, and part of the basis for that is that it'll take you a year to get the Capex up and running to be able to give you enhanced profitability. We'll take that into consideration with the tenor of the loan. So the tenor of the loan will be appropriate to when you can expect to achieve the results from your financing. Thanks.
And there's no specific collateral requirements, just adding that to make clear. Yeah,
so, and we may have to, as we evaluate the application, and particularly for Build, which is a quasi-commercial fund, there may be some security interest that is required, but there is no, out of the gate, there's no fixed tenor or fixed collateral requirement that we assess. Thanks.
Thank you, colleagues. I see one question in the chat that I would like to clarify for all attendees. After submission of proposal, what is the time frame for shortlisting and approval of the grant? This is not a grant opportunity. And I would like to make sure that it's clear. As the colleagues, the team has explained, UNCDF has a capital mandate, and the specific opportunities to deploy financing instruments, including loans and guarantees. This is not a grant opportunity. Okay, I see another question for Andreas. By tech-enabled, are we referring to digital technology specifically, or also manufacturing technological hardware, for instance, recycling technology?
I would say that we would mean more digitally enabled technology, and not necessarily fall into, machine and equipment technology per se. But however, a company that uses machinery and tech-heavy equipment could leverage the use of digital tools themselves to also improve performance. So those companies would still be eligible, but maybe on another term that question was presented for. I hope, that made it a little bit clear.
Thank you. Will joint proposal be accepted?
Joint proposal? Was that the question?
Yes.
Yeah, no, the answer would be no to that. We will be looking for individual applications in this expression of interest. individual entities.
Okay, another question for companies that have an Africa-wide presence, but with domiciled in Ghana, are they allowed to use the funds for operations in other jurisdictions?
So, but was the question about registration outside of Ghana, or using the
use
operations
of
outside
funds?
of Ghana?
I think yes, on the use of fund, whether the organization can use the funds for operations in other jurisdiction. Maybe so. For this expression of interest, we are looking at organizations with operations in Ghana. But of course, we will discuss on a case by case for the use of funding with shortlisted candidates. But
I would say the funding would be targeted for operations, yes, in Ghana.
Another question is, what is the most likely date for a company to receive funding if it qualifies through this process? Let me go to the appropriate.
The timeline, usually the timeline from sourcing to investment decision, we're looking at generally 4 to 6 months.
Thank you very much. I see a couple of questions on requirements. We have all the documents published online, so I invite interested candidates to have a look. So for instance, on years of operation, we have extensively detailed in the document. Okay, so another question is regarding tech, the physical infrastructure and the value chain to make the tech component viable. Will you look into grants for greenfield projects? Maybe again, it's not a grant opportunity. Mm-hmm. So let's make it clear. Again, we are looking for organizations that are that have investment needs and will be willing to partner with UNCDF for financing instruments such as loans. Okay. I see we have also someone with the hands up. Let me allow her to talk.
Can you do that, Ariana, or should I? Yes. Yeah, you can do it. Yeah.
Hello, Betty. Can you hear us?
Yes, please. I wanted to find out, since this is more of a loan and an investment kind of funding, can an organization like WCF, that's the World Cocoa Foundation, apply? We don't do loans for members or support their loan application in any way, but there is a lot of potential within the membership, especially those that are local members, to apply for such a fund because they are digitizing their VSLA. Some of them are looking at processing at the local level, but we cannot apply for the funding because we don't take loans, but there is the need to build their capacity. For example, the digitization of their VSLAs that would give them the opportunity to be able to access such facilities. Do you have any opening for such? Thank you.
Ariana, do you want to take that question?
Yes, I can start. So Betty, if you have, for instance, organizations that could be eligible, yeah, we can definitely have an offline conversation to explore this opportunity.
Thank you, Ariana. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, let's go back to the Q&A, and maybe for just for your information, if we are not able to address all of them, we will publish a Q&A document available online that will collect all the informations that we have received today, and also online through our dedicated email address. Okay, I see another interesting question. Can you provide more details on equity investment, if applicable?
I think that would be a good question for Tracy, if that would be okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I don't understand the question. So equity, I think it makes more sense for the company to go through, if you would like to consider an equity investment, this is a vehicle, Build is a vehicle that can offer that. So I think you will need to go through the application and submit your application. I'm not sure, I can't, without doing the analysis on the company, we can't give any insight on how much equity or what terms we would provide for the equity. I see a couple of other questions too about, I see one, hi Justina, I see you're asking about impact funds, and we are preferring to do direct investments in SMEs for both Bridge and Build. So right now, this is not an opportunity for impact funds to apply for funding. And I see some question about interest rates. And so when the companies submit their information for the pre-assessment and the application, we will do a preliminary analysis and ultimately a very rigorous fundamental due diligence. And so at that point, we will do an assessment of the business model and the financials. And so there are no preset. I see some other questions saying like, what's the debt to equity ratio, or we look at a bunch of credit metrics and the performance of the company over time and the projections. So we're looking for profitability trends, for cash flow trends. We're trying to do a pro forma of what the debt coverage, if it were a loan, what the debt service coverage ratio would be. And there are no preset filters for that say, yes, you'll get an investment, or no, you won't. All of this is a very, bespoke due diligence that is done for each company. And from that, we derive a pricing buildup, and that's how we set our interest rates. So I also can't give an answer on what the specific interest rate is, because it depends on the risk of the transaction and the credit risk of the company. So I hope that unfortunately is not a precise answer, but there will not be a precise answer until we can go through the due diligence on the company. And that's when we also set the credit terms. Thanks.
Thank you, Tracy. I see Rose from West African Feeds have a couple of questions. What's the debt to equity ratio for the Build loan? Again, I think the application is asking interested applicants to fill in some financial information. So I invite interested candidates to look at the application form and then get back to us in case of further questions. Another question is, will UNCDF take a board seat in the event of an equity investment?
Maybe Tracy, that could be a question for you for the Build Fund as well.
Yeah, so again, all of these questions will depend on the outcome of the due diligence. There's no set debt to equity. It is unlikely that UNCDF would take a board seat. It is possible that Build, as the investment manager, would need to take a board seat, but that's part of their process. The threshold percentage for an equity investment is not something that has been determined yet. That's we're mostly focused so far on debt, so I can't give you a precise answer on that. Although I do encourage people who are entities that are interested in equity, fill out the application and let's start the process. I have a feeling you will find us a more interesting investor than or as interesting as other impact investors in the space. But I can't give you precise answers on this call until we have gotten to know each other a little bit better. The life cycle, due diligence criteria, what determines a good credit score. Wow, that's a that could be, 12 months of calls and discussions. But so let me just reiterate that we do a very bespoke custom due diligence and assess the qualitative and quantitative criteria of a company and we come up with a credit assessment for each company, and that's how we set terms. And if the company is in a seed round, will UNCDF co-invest? Yes, we will co-invest, particularly if the ask is bigger than the criteria of our funds. So then we need to co-invest. Over to you guys for more questions.
Thank you very much. I see we have, I think, let me go through. There is one question. If you please, can you please elaborate briefly on the facility application process? I think if you are referring to the overall process, it's shown in this slide, but again, we invite you to read the documents that we have published online that you can find on the portal of UNCDF called Apply. So you will see here what you see on the screen now. It's the right website where you can go to find out more information with also supporting documents. Okay, this is an interesting question for Andreas. If you can give more, if you can give 2 examples of technology-driven, digital-driven product or service.
Tech-driven product. I mean, 2 examples. There are so many, so many different ones. I mean, it could be a marketplace for small businesses, a digital marketplace to source and sell products, or it could also be digital payments or digital credit or credit scoring. It could be so many different business models according to these different sectors that we're looking at.
Okay, this is another question. Will you use the pre-eligibility application to advise on the most appropriate financing option? So maybe I'll start and then I'll ask colleagues to complement. In the application form, your organization can actually propose the most appropriate financing option, either be debt or equity. Another question, can applications be made for a combination of debt and equity and across bridge and build? For instance, 500K equity to build a technical platform and 500K to on land, both through build, or 500K equity through build and 500K loan guarantee. So combination of debt and equity. In the application form, you can select more than one option.
Yeah, in the application form, you put your required financing according to the 3 categories: debt, equity, and guarantee. And you can do a joint application of all 3, depending on your financing needs.
And just to tack on, it would likely all come from build. I think it's very unlikely that we would have some financing come from bridge and some come from build. It could all be done out of build in this case, for example. Over.
Okay, another option on another question on eligibility. Operations of recipient organization will target Ghana, but in order to do so, it will need the support of a non-Ghanaian based company, for instance, technology provider. Is that okay?
You will need to partner with a local organization in order to have in order to realize your operations in Ghana. I think we would have to look at those cases case by case, because I think the fundamental principle is that if the applying organization is operational in Ghana, and if that's through a partner organization, depending on, again, many different business models out there, I think you would have to be on a case-by-case basis. But the fundamental principle is if the applying organization has operations in Ghana. Sorry, I cannot make a very much clearer answer, but I think that's a very case-by-case type question.
Thank you very much.
There is also another hand raised in the
yes, I see. Let me allow him to talk. I see Samuel. Hi, Samuel, can you hear us? If you can maybe introduce yourself and the organization you represent.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm Samuel Boitesegwefi. I'm the owner of Waste Segregation Systems, which is a waste recovery company that I run in Ghana. We employ segregation systems as technologies for waste recovery, and in future we have plans to have equipment that can do waste, that can do segregation on their own. So I want to ask if these fall under technology, or the technology has to be specifically digital. Thank you.
Yeah, so this question is also relevant to that question that was raised before about the technical equipment and the tech-based equipment. So I think we have, under the definition of this expression of interest, we are a bit open of looking at different types of tech companies. And as I said, it could also be a company that could leverage other digital technology to improve performance. So I think the kind of business model that you have is definitely eligible under this expression of interest. That's the answer I can provide to you.
I think Samuel had already had asked a question in the chat too about demonstration of getting audited financial statements. And I would say if you could, for example, provide a contract that you've put in place with an audit firm, even if they haven't done the audit yet, but if you can show that you've contracted with an audit firm to be able to do that, that would be a good indicator, for example.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I see we have only 4 minutes left, so we are going through the last questions. I will say up to 2 or 3, and then again we will collect all of them and we'll update our Q&A document that you can find online. So please use our online documentation. So
Ariana, also there are 2 more hands in the open floor.
Yeah, I'll give them the priority. Priscilla, I see. Can you hear us?
Yes, please, I can hear you. Good afternoon to you all. Please, I wanted to find out if tech hubs, definitely in Ghana, who are ready to give out equities can apply. Thank you.
Ariana, did you hear the question? I don't.
I'm sorry, I didn't. Priscilla, can you please repeat, please?
So
Maybe the connection is not good.
Please,
can't
I was
hear
saying,
you.
asking that.
Oh yeah.
Please,
Yeah,
can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No.
Yes.
Yeah,
we can
let's
hear you.
try one last time, please.
Can apply.
I'm sorry, we still struggle, you are breaking. Can you please email us the question and we'll make sure we address your question? Thank you. So last question is for Kwaku. Can you hear us? Yes, we can hear you. Can you try to, can you hear us? You should be allowed to talk.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Nanaya Kunedu, founder and the CEO of Electro Recycling Ghana. We are mainly recycle electronic items, but the reuse is very important for us. For instance, we bringing back like iPhone 6, iPhone 7, iPhone 8, or let me say electronic items which are not, they are too much needed in Europe. So we bring it to Ghana, we refurbish it and make it available. For instance, you can have an iPhone 6 from us for $30 with warranty. Will we fall under this program for upscaling?
I think this business model would be really relevant under the digital infrastructure kind of sector, and that group of companies. It's an interesting company, and obviously it adds value to the digital economy. So I think this would be definitely eligible under the criteria that we have.
Super. And the last one, please, if possible. We also produce Made in Ghana television, where 80% of the television part comes from recycling. For instance, old monitors, which is LCD, we convert it to LED and we sell it to the rural areas in Ghana, which people can also own a television, 17 inches, 19 inches for $35, $40. I think it falls at the same digital transformation of Ghana, right?
Of course, the development impact that we're looking for is more closer to the phones, I think.
Okay.
So we're also looking at the impact on SDGs and development impact. So of course, that would also be a key differentiator in our decision, just to point that out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think maybe the hands raised in the open floor, we will have some time, Ariana, to just take them. I don't want to leave any hands hanging, maybe.
Okay.
Yes, I'm afraid that everybody then will raise their hands. Let's take the last one. I see Emmanuel, Felix, and Covina in line, and then we will close. Emmanuel, hi, can you hear us?
Hi, Ariana, can hear you?
Yes, go
good
ahead.
day. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Very, very helpful. Actually, I am a chartered accountant and I run an accounting firm, and basically we support SMEs with their bookkeeping and all of that in order to position them for funding and better financial performance. Right now, we also retail accounting softwares, which we use as a central system to keep in records. At the moment, we are building our own local accounting softwares here in Ghana, built by local engineers here. I want to know whether these qualifies, for this funding.
For this accountancy firm, I don't think it would fall into the definition of the sectors that we will be looking for. If you're asking about the accountancy firm specifically, I didn't really hear about the last part of what you spoke about. But if it's about the accountancy firm, I would say it's not really falling into the sectors that we're targeting for this.
Andres, what I meant is we are building an accounting software which is digital and helping SMEs to actually process their day-to-day financial data. I mean, and of course, that has an integration with the payment system.
That would be very eligible, of course.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much. I see Kubina, am I pronouncing it correctly? Can you hear us?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of this conversation. Very, very, very resourceful. My question is, first of all, my name is Kobnad Mazilongden. I'm the Chief Executive for Tech Farm Hub. We are a business development innovation hub based in Koforidua in the eastern region of Ghana. Our focus is within the scope of technology for agriculture, agribusinesses, and generally supporting SMEs. One of the questions that came through, which is one of the things that I'm interested in to know, is whether innovation or business development hubs, based on their structure of operations that supports other tech-related activities, can also apply. So whether hubs can also apply. And then my other question has to do with MMDAs, as in Metropolitan Municipal District Assemblies. When I checked online based on the link, I saw that there was a component that it looks like they could also equally apply. I want to know if it is the same portal or platform they are supposed to go through, or if there are other criteria that also has to come to table before MMDAs can apply. And I also want to know if MMDAs are applying, in whose capacity they should apply within the structure of how they operate. I'm asking this for related activities that I do with some MMDAs in this regard. Thank you.
Ariana, I can take the first question about the hub, but the second question, MMDA, maybe needs some more clarity.
Yes, indeed. This specific expression of interest is dedicated to the private sector. So, but we can take it offline because there are some financing instruments also for public entities, but you will need to, this specific opportunity looks at the private sector. But we can connect offline and see what the needs are and further discuss. We are, as UNCDF in Ghana, as my colleague presented earlier, we do work with local governments and local authorities. Yes. Okay. I see we have other questions. I propose we'll take them offline. We will also provide answers to all of them and publish the documents so everybody can actually check. And we will also publish the recording of this session on our channels, and we will disseminate both the deck as well as the recording with the attendees to this session. I would like for my colleagues maybe to give a few words before we close.
I think we're good, Ariana. I think we can close the meeting.
I have posted in the chat the link also for where you can find the documentation, as well as the link to the investment platform of UNCDF, where you can connect and apply to this specific opportunity. You can see in the chat. Let me copy again so everybody can see. Tracy and Enea, you would like to close this session?
Say it's fine from my side. You know, I was just thinking about that. It's amazing how many organizations, institutions are attending this call. So we are looking forward to receiving your application, and thank you once again for your time in attending our call. Thank you. Over to you, Arianna.
Okay, thank you. Thanks to my colleagues and all the attendees. We had more than 100, so very glad, and we look forward to receiving your applications and assess this opportunity together.